Halo SPH LV. Greetings from SLH Nias.
We want to greet you.
Enaros per Pelita mate bakke Yesu Keriso, ma enaro mau itagal babak kami repauso Yesu ade. Yao.
SPH Jova wai aba sikase.
Kena Yesus Kristus wame mapo domamiku elina ba miye aniki abala as kangeo.
Aku yang sudah disalibkan dengan Kristus Yesus.
Bukanlah aku yang hidup,
Tetapi Kristus Yesus hidup di dalam aku.
Greetings from SLH Banjar Agung. May the grace of God be with you there. We want to greet you Happy Easter.
beri tepukan.
Greetings from SMH Tomohon. We all want to greet you. with my soul, with my soul. It is well with my soul.
My sin, oh, the bliss of this glorious thought. My sin, not in part, but the whole, is nailed to the cross, and I bear it no more. Praise the Lord, oh my soul. It is well with my soul, with my soul. It is well with my soul. For me be it Christ tends to lead. If Jordan above me shall run,
No pang shall be mine, for in death as in life, thou wilt whisper thy peace to my soul.
it is well with my soul,
With my soul, it is well with my soul.
And Lord, past today, when the pit shall be sad, the clouds be rolled back as a scroll.
The trump shall resound, and the Lord shall descend. Even so, it is well with my soul.
It is well with my soul.
It is well with my soul.
Hello, students. Hello, parents. Hello, teachers. It's so great to be able to worship together, even though we're not together in the same space. We are still together. We are still SPH Lippo Village, and we are uniting in different places around the country and also even around the world this day, because Jesus is risen. On Sunday morning, I don't know if this is a tradition in your home, but in my home, we say, Christ is risen. And then everybody else says, he is risen indeed. So let's try that right now. Christ is risen. And now you say, he is risen indeed. I was watching a movie with my children on the weekend. This is a tradition that we used to have many years ago and haven't done so in a while. And so we decided to try to resurrect that tradition. This was a movie called Jesus of Nazareth. And it's probably the longest movie, maybe in the world ever. It's a 6-hour-long movie, and we didn't watch the whole thing. We started almost towards the end because we wanted our children to be able to watch the story of Jesus' death, and then on Easter Sunday of his resurrection. And as we were watching on Good Friday the story of his death, I was reminded about the cross. Now, we often just have crosses around, maybe on a chain. Maybe you have one on a chain right now, or we have one on the wall of our house or in our church. We see crosses fairly often. But we often don't, when we see the cross, think about what it meant. And specifically, we don't often, I think about how much pain was involved in the cross. The Romans chose it because it was so painful. And it was so visible. Everyone could see the thief or the criminal strung up on a cross, visible on a hill for a huge distance. And they would see that and think, I do not want that to happen to me. It must have been just about the most agonizing, excruciating thing to happen to anyone. And as far as I know, there are no crucifixions that occur anymore just because of how bad it is. But there's a mystery. And the mystery here about the cross is that when I read the Bible, I actually read passages that talk about myself and the cross. One of which is, I have been crucified. I have been crucified. Now, that's sort of a difficult thing to say because when I look at my hands, you can see there's no scar. So I have not been crucified. I'm alive. People who are crucified die. But the mystery is that you read in the Bible, I have been crucified. Now, specifically, the word is, I have been crucified with Christ. But then the mystery gets even a little deeper because he says, I no longer live. Now, I'm alive. I'm breathing. I am alive. I have not died. I have not been crucified. And yet when I read the Bible, I read that it says, I have been crucified with Christ and I no longer live. Now, this is a mystery. And it must have something to do with my body and my spirit. My body is not dead, has not been crucified. I'm not a zombie. I'm not the walking dead. But somehow my spirit has been crucified. And I think it really helps to remember that when we're born, when we're babies, when we're children, young, it's so obvious. And I know because I have 6 kids. And all 6 of them, when they were born, I mean, they're wonderful kids. But when they were born, they were really difficult. And it was obvious to me that my children wanted to do what was wrong. They wanted to disobey and other things. I won't tell you any stories right now. But like you and like me, like your parents, like your grandparents, all are born with something inside us that loves to do what's wrong. When we're born, when we're young, we love selfishness. We love, especially for life, to be all about ourselves. And so when Paul says, I have been crucified with Christ and I no longer live, he's not talking about his body because he's alive just like you and I are alive. He's talking about that part of him that showed itself as deeply sinful when he was a child. And at a certain point, Christ came into his life and caused that to be crucified, to die. And then for him in his spirit to rise. Let me show you the actual passage right here. I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. It's a new life. The life I now live in the flesh, in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. The spirit becomes alive. When I'm born, somehow it's true that my spirit is dead. But when Christ enters my life is new, and my spirit comes to life, and it will never die. My body will die one day, but my spirit will never die. Can you say that you have been crucified with Christ and that you no longer live? Or are you still in that season of life where you really want everything to be all about you? You want life to be about serving yourself. Maybe you're still in that season of life. But my hope is that in this Easter season, you will stop, all of us, I, you, we will all stop and think about the cross, about what Jesus did out of tremendous love. You see here in this passage, he loved me and gave himself for me. See, the cross is a sign of suffering, but it's also a sign of tremendous love. And I hope that you think about that. I hope that you think about Jesus' love for you, so great that he even accepted the cross that he didn't have to do. He accepted it in order that in us which loves sin might die with him, and that our lives may be made new. The life I now live in the flesh and the body, I live by faith in the Son of God. I pray that he may help all of us to understand this and move in our hearts and change us so that we may love him in return.